Good, John. Hope you're doing well this evening. Yep, I'm cooking again. But look at the grid. Norris on pole for the sprint. Russell second. Piastri third. Sainz fourth. Leclerc fifth. Sixth, Verstappen. Obviously, it's all about a constructors' battle, and McLaren might be saving themselves at the death. For their sake, I hope they can salvage this championship, because otherwise it's going to look very embarrassing for them. I know Norris came out the other day saying, oh well, Verstappen said that he'd win the championship in our car, but no he wouldn't, and it's just it's a very heavy sense of Norris backtracking now, and that's really worrying, because I think deep down, the pressure is still on, because obviously the Constructors' Championship is there to be won, which obviously, let's face it, McLaren have got to win the Constructors, otherwise it's the worst double whammy imaginable now. They have had the fastest car this year, and I know some people have made comparisons to 2009, but I kind of think McLaren have had a better car than what Red Bull had back in 2009, where of course Vettel was the one trying to fight for the championship, but in the end fell apart. But the thing is, Vettel had the likes of Hamilton from McLaren and Kimi Räikkönen at Ferrari taking points off him. And then, of course, occasionally the likes of Alonso at Renault, and what's his name, Rosberg at Williams took points off him. So it was actually a lot harder for Vettel to challenge Button that year. But this season, it's clearly been mostly Norris, mostly outpacing Piastri, and even though obviously both Mercedes have won 4 races and Ferrari have got 5 wins, I think a lot of those wins should have been taken by Norris and McLaren, and yet they bottled a lot of it, so not good, and yeah, I think Norris will want to try and end this year on a high, otherwise, oh man, the criticism will just carry on hammering through, and I think for his sake, I hope for his sake, he does get through it. I'm just peeling carrots for those of you wondering. Obviously, I think further down the grid, Pinto once again having problems. I think his early strong start to his career has already faded off, and I think he could be looking at a year at the sidelines, so damn. But of course, the thing with Pinto is that his junior career isn't that good, to be honest. So really, I think inevitably there was always going to be a drop-off with Pinto despite the early hype, and I have to say he's under pressure now, because I think he's nowhere near as special as what some people think he really is, making some very worrying errors already now. And if you want to look, yeah, there's the cooking. It is cooking food, if you can see, carrots and pork. And you can listen to the sound. The rest of the order, Gasly doing well again. Hamilton struggling. Hulkenberg 9th as usual. Perez down in 16th. Not much to say. Albon 12th. Bottas 13th. It's not really that particularly. Sorry, let me just read what you just said. And confirmed Qatar Sauber deal. Yeah, I mean, Audi are not really that keen on the team, if I'm going to be honest at this point. I don't get the impression like Audi, the sports staff, in a beg your pardon, or wanted to spend a huge amount of money, because a lot of German car manufacturers are struggling right now, so yeah, bad economy, bad sales, too much investment in electric cars, and I think, yeah, it's gonna probably just be a glorified engine deal at this point. They're just gonna basically turn into Alpine at this point and just do the bare minimum. And sad, but that's life. Got an idea for them to go and take on Qatar money because, oh, that's where I think the money is at now. I mean, we can talk about human rights and all that, but that's another topic for another day because no matter how much you protest that, there's not going away the Qatari, Middle Eastern money, and certainly not the racers by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, this is the sound of me cooking food. If you want to see it, I'll probably just stay quiet for a bit. So yeah, Bottas 13th, Alonso getting 11th in the Aston Martin, which obviously has had a lot of dodgy upgrades on it. I don't know what else to say about sprint qualifying. It is a much twistier track around here. Gasly still remains on top form, but I think obviously Ocon's leaving, so he's not too bothered about what goes on for the rest of the season at Alpine for him. Obviously, Alpine will rename themselves as High Tech in the future, and they will take on Mercedes engines. So hopefully, we don't see another engine failure like we saw at Las Vegas again, because I'm absolutely sick of it. And I mean, Flavio Briatore, Ollie Oaks deserve credit because they've turned this team around in a very short space of time. I know people have got their own opinions about Flavio Briatore, but I don't care because, dude, Pierre Gasly needs help, and so do Alpine. Desperate time call for desperate measures, and they got the double podium at Brazil, so as far as I'm concerned, Flavio Briatore is a miracle worker. And this is Formula One. If you think everyone's squeaky clean here, then you are watching the wrong sport, my friend. You don't know what you're watching. And if you're wondering what I'm cooking, it is some Chinese leaf, carrot, okra, a bit of beans, and some pork underneath, and I think Crashgate 2.0 is on the cards. Oh my god, no. Let's not be silly now. Let's not be silly. It ain't happening. Crashgate 2.0 is... Let's not be silly. None of that nonsense is going to be happening anytime soon. So, I think AlphaTauri is definitely not going to dare do something like that again, and I don't think you even can do it because you don't have refueling. So, I don't know, maybe Gasly does an early pit stop, but then Ocon crashes out, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone will pop out into the pits like they did in the refueling era, because some people will gamble on staying out nowadays, since of course fuel is no longer a limiting factor in pit stops. Of course, you can pit as early as you want or pit as late as you want, and we do see a lot more one-stop strategies in modern F1. So, yeah, none of that tomfoolery. And of course, if we saw Alpine do it, I think everyone would immediately call their bluff if you tried to do Crashgate 2.0. It's just, everyone knows Flavio's tricks. It's like, yeah, he's not going to be that dumb, but like, I think it'd be a very stupid thing for him to do, and he's not going to do it again. He knows that he's already done it before, so... These carrots are really old. Norris, I mean, I think he'll win the sprint race. It's not a very long race, but when he can get the job done again on the feature race is another question. I mean, you never know with Lando. But having said that, I think with a Chatwood Bolton now that he knows that he's lost the championship, the Drivers' Championship, I think he might feel a little less pressure knowing that, I don't know, as long as Max isn't exactly too quick and doesn't really catch up to him, then he might also get a win on Sunday, so... And he might salvage some of his reputation in the last two races. If you ask me though, if you had 25-year-old Kimi Raikkonen in this year's McLaren, he'd win the Drivers' Championship easily. a lot of steam coming out. Just going to microwave a bit of rice. Sainz is going to leave Ferrari at the end of the season. Hamilton, I hope for Hamilton's sake, it's a case of him being absolutely past his best, but I'm not sure. I think this might genuinely be Hamilton losing his raw speed. Got another 30 seconds to go in the microwave, so I'll be getting the food out soon. Hulkenberg, I really I think he might be wasted at Audi next year. Like, he's still very good. Still a great driver, but who knows? I mean, it could well be that Bottas and Zhou were absolutely stinking out the place there for the past 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how Sauber perform with Hulkenberg available. And to be honest, I know, you know, with the season basically at close, like, I'm just talking about next year instead, because we've only got the Constructors' Championship left. Like, Max Verstappen deserves to win the driver's title. It's like, although of course there is a slight hint of Norris bottling it to some extent, so not really my concern, but you know, hopefully Lando learns his lesson from this year and realises he's got to do a lot better than what he's driven like. Because Max Verstappen is the full package. And even when he does stupid things like what he did at Mexico, believe me, he can get away with it because he knows Norris is not the type. It's the type of person who would rather keep it clean. And if you get aggressive with him and push him off the road, he gets mentally rankled by it all. And it's like he wishes everyone could hold hands and race fairly, but that's not how it's always is with Formula One, I'm afraid. It's almost like you can behave like a 13-year-old when someone does something wrong. It's like, how dare they go and push me off the road? But it's like, well, you're in Formula One, my friend. And Max Verstappen, with his dad, Jos, and being quite an aggressive person, well, I mean, you can sit there and say things like, Max would never win a championship in my McLaren, but that's just desperation, to be honest. It just feels like backtracking now from the McLaren camp over how this season has gone falling apart. Very sad. Piastri in 3rd place. Once again, Piastri is just okay in qualifying. Nothing else. He needs to improve his quality speed. Otherwise, if he carries on qualifying like this, then Piastri's success in F1 will be quite limited, so he better get a move on, to be honest, in improving himself as a driver. F1 doesn't wait for anyone, I'm afraid. It really doesn't. If anyone wants to ask any questions, you can, but I mean, if you don't, then I'm going to close it very soon. I suppose, well, I don't know what can be said. I think I'll come back tomorrow because the ASEAN Championship. Oh, right, that's interesting. That's basically Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, all playing. Of course, I think the only thing that's anything like it is probably the OFC Cup of Nations down, was it, where New Zealand and of course Papua New Guinea and New Caledonia, Fiji, Tahiti, the Solomon Islands. I think that's the only thing that probably compares to it, but unfortunately for the Southeast Asian Championships, it's not a fully fledged confederation, so unfortunately, you don't get to qualify directly to the World Cup from that part of the world. Unlike what you can do with Oceania, with, of course, New Zealand probably more or less guaranteed a place in the next World Cup, since, of course, FIFA have now changed the eligibility rules for World Cup qualifying, in that the OFC gets an automatic quality spot, whilst ASEAN don't, since, of course, they're part of the Asian Football Confederation. I think apparently Indonesia have actually kept a couple of their qualifying round players like Marcelino Ferdinand, Justin Hubner, due to the fact they're not getting a single game at Oxford or Wolves right now. So, I mean, it's funny to think that Marcelino Ferdinand is probably Indonesia's best player, but he can't get a game at Oxford in the championship. So, my God, I mean, Indonesia have definitely improved, but they're not exactly like. But I think it's safe to say if they do qualify for the World Cup, they're getting battered. So, and unfortunately, I think some Indonesian fans might take it pretty badly, but really, even so, they have made amazing progress in the last year or so, albeit with, of course, a lot of Dutch players coming over to help them. I mean, I don't know how you can get live streams, especially where I live in the UK, but I suppose they'll probably get exciting in the semi-finals when they play each other home and away. Because obviously, I think the likes of Laos and Myanmar are not exactly going to be competitive now, are they? And certainly not Cambodia. Let's face it, I mean, I've seen Hong Kong beat Cambodia in qualifying games. I mean, Hong Kong themselves can't beat Liechtenstein, so I really do wonder how bad the standard of football in places like Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos is, because they can't beat Hong Kong, who themselves can't beat Liechtenstein. And of course, Liechtenstein lost twice home and away to San Marino, so I think the group stages, I'm afraid, should be an absolute breeze for the Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. I mean, I suppose it's a very good money maker at the very least for that part of the world. I can't imagine many football fans in Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia being that super excited, to be honest, knowing that unless something amazing happens, then they're not going to the semi-finals. I don't know why Eastern Europe doesn't host its own like club and international tournaments. Like I've been thinking about this last night, like the idea of I don't know the international break being like separated across regions and like Europe like going back to midweek international fixtures like they did in the 90s. I don't know. Although of course the only way you can do it is for of course foreign players to mostly more or less leave the Premier League, La Liga, League One, Serie A, Bundesliga, because a lot of them probably wouldn't be able to play for their countries if Europe, well, Western Europe, switched back to a midweek international schedule like they did in the 90s, where, like, you know, you play your international fixtures on Wednesday and then you go back to your club in time for Saturday to play club football again. And it's just, there's very little interruption to the normal schedule like there used to be 30 odd years ago. I mean, as for the rest of the world, they can keep hold of what's the normal international fixture because, let's be honest, I think obviously flying distances are very bad around Asia and Africa and you know what, North America, so they need the international break because travel is a real obstacle for that part of the rest outside of Europe. But of course, it would probably mean that a lot of foreign players would probably leave the big European leagues just to be able to accommodate for it. So goodbye to a lot of Japanese and Korean players from England and Scotland, I suppose. And probably quite a few other African players and South Americans to accommodate for it, but that's none of my business, really. They can always go and play in the MLS, and I don't know, maybe one day we might see the Super League get formed over in America with, what's it, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, the Milan clubs, Bayern Munich, PSG, all heading to the States and becoming franchise clubs in the MLS. And, yeah, I mean, you know, I think with Europe's declining demographics, I wouldn't be surprised if America does end up swallowing a lot of big European names because, I mean, if they can make more money and get more tourism going to their new stadiums in America, then I think I don't know, I think Premier League might lose half of their clubs to America, and then, I don't know, I suppose we'll see. Because let's face it, most of the owners in the Premier League are foreign, so I suppose all the fans of the Big Six can always go and watch another club in the lower leagues where they live. So, yeah, good luck to them. I'll end this stream because I'm just going to ramble. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time at Crystal Racing.